It's stopped now.
Gotta love Skype.
Yeah, you've got it. Right, let me start everything.
Probably trying to set MSN as my default homepage or something.
Right.
We're Garryless.
Yes, Jason, good evening. Yes, we are Garryless tonight.
Yeah, good evening, Ian. But yeah, I'm not sure I should be speaking to you. You were a bad influence.
So why is that?
I may have gone onto the fast ring on my Surface Pro 3 despite last week saying it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, last week you in fact, I've just opened the chat room window and the last statement in there is staying on the preview ring here. Release preview ring here. And that was from you. So
yes.
What changed your mind?
It was a couple of things, really. I mean, one was the issue list. While there was a couple of biggies in there, didn't seem to be nothing kind of significant for me. Although after I joined the fast ring and started installing, I did notice that they'd updated the information about the DRM, which we can talk about in a bit. But I think what got me was obviously I installed it into my VM as I normally do and had a quick play around with it. But I also decided to get a bit of a better, more kind of day-to-day use of it. I'd upgrade our desktop PC in the house, which very rarely gets used. So it wasn't a big deal if I needed to wipe it and revert back again. And so it was really using it on there, and I just started to realise actually that it made me realise kind of how far along it was in terms of, I'm really happy with the original release and the Threshold 2 release, but the Redstone 1 build just seems so much more polished and so much more fine-tuned, and obviously with the messaging, the universal Windows messaging. But the biggest one, the one that really tipped it over the edge for me, was the new start experience.
Yeah,
and I'm calling that in a homage to Edbot, who said it should be anybody who calls it a start menu, it's not, it's a start experience. So that's my so that's what I'm calling it. But yeah, it was that really, because while I've I like the start menu, the start experience on Windows 10, there was just something that I missed from the old kind of Windows 8 RT days, where the start menu as it was then was kind of full screen. And without any, you kind of swiped up to get the all apps view, which I think came in 8.1. And this change seems very reminiscent of that. It would be nice if we could swipe up, but I guess because of they've changed the direction of that start screen, so now it's a start. It's kind of vertical scrolling as opposed to horizontal. I guess it's quite difficult for them to do that. Whether or not they could change it to a side swipe, I don't know. But what they have got on the screen is there's a button where if you've got the full screen start experience, you can toggle between your tiles view and your all apps view.
Yeah.
And that all apps view, well, I feel on my Surface Pro 3, I think they could get away with 4 columns of tiles of icons, whereas they've gone with 3. It feels like a bit of a wasted screen real estate. Whether or not that would change on a bigger resolution, I don't know. But so it was that really tipped it for me, because I mostly use my Surface Pro 3 as a kind of laptop style, with it docked with the keyboard attached, and so it meant that whenever I opened up Start, I got a snippet of what my screen was, but it wasn't the same view I had when I was in tablet mode.
Yeah.
Now, while you could put it into full screen, I didn't like permanently having the all apps view there. It kind of just felt a bit cluttered. I felt like things weren't flowing. So yeah, that was the biggest one that really tipped it over for me. That I just really liked it. So I've now got my Surface Pro 3 set to full screen start, even in non-tablet mode. And it just, now, because of the way I've got my tiles laid out, every one of my tiles fits on my screen in full screen. So yeah, it was that really. And also, just to say, it was, when I started clicking around on the desktop PC and in the VM, looking at settings and the new style Action Center I really liked. It's just lots and lots and lots of little things that added up to me wanting to give it a go as a kind of daily driver.
Yeah.
In conjunction with the fact that the number of issues was actually relatively small.
So this was 14.328, was it, last week that you're talking about?
It was, 14.328 I was really tempted by, and I'd actually planned that the next day I was going to install it, and then I woke up and I think I sent a tweet to you going, oh, new build.
Yeah.
And so the 14332 build, sorry, 14332 build was the one I actually ended up going with. And again, I think they'd resolved some of the issues even from 1.4, even though it's not much further along. They'd resolved a few issues from 1.4.3.2.8. There's still enough issues on the mobile build that I don't want to go to that. I think the biggest one is the issue around Tweetium.
Yeah,
I think everything else
doesn't work.
Yeah, everything else I could kind of live with. I'm not quite sure why that particular app's called out. It seems odd that particular one won't work, but so I've refrained from going down the mobile build route. But certainly, if they can resolve that one, I think I'll be tempted. And also, just as a final point, really, the other thing was it suddenly dawned on me that we're nearly into May. This thing releases in July, and it was really, I felt, between the May-June timeframe that the original Windows 10 release really started to come into shape.
Yeah.
And I think that's reflected with where they are now. Yes, they've still got some relatively big issues. The biggest one around DRM, although again we can talk about that in a bit. But yeah, it just feels like it's really kind of coming towards the end of the cycle now. So I just thought I would take the plunge, and so far I haven't regretted doing so. It's been really stable. I think I had one problem today where I noticed that the store apps were being a bit slow to respond. But I just did a restart, and that kind of went away. I'm just seeing if I can get up Gabe's posts in terms of what the actual issues are. I don't know if you've still got it in front of you or really available.
Well, I thought, since we actually recorded, there's 2 builds, isn't there, we've got? So, like you said, there's 14.3.3.2, which was this week on Wednesday, which is the first one you got on. And before that, we had 14.3.2.8, which actually was the build that included all the new features. So I think we'll talk 14.3.2.8 first.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the 14.3.3.2, because really 14.3.2.8 was the build that I've been waiting for, and the reason why I put my Surface on the fast ring, because there has a lot of changes in it. And there were a lot of changes in this. The release notes on this one are fairly big. So first major new feature, it was the inclusion of Windows Ink, which is, for anybody that's not seen it, Windows Ink is this, essentially it's an application, but I think it's more integrated, it's more deeply integrated in the OS than just as an app, but it's a collection of tools that are optimized for the pen. So you've got sticky notes, Sketchpad, Screen Sketch, and then some other pen features. So talk about that first. So what do you think about the Windows Ink?
I must. You'd think with the Surface Pro 3 I'd have played around with it, but I actually haven't. So I can't comment on it, unfortunately.
Well, I actually don't. I think I've said before, I don't spend a huge amount of time with using the pen on the Surface. It's quite good in meetings, I guess, with for taking notes sometimes, but I generally don't use the pen very much. But I think this Windows Inking might change that. So sticky notes is exactly like the old Windows 7, I think it was, wasn't it? And older sticky notes. And I think did they arrive in Vista? I think it was a Vista feature.
Yes, I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah. So you could just create a sticky note, and you can do it with the pen. And Sketchpad is, I think Sketchpad is probably interesting one, where you can actually, it's got a full set of drawing tools with the pen, and that's where it has the ruler, which I thought was quite nice. So the ruler you control with touch. So the ruler, you can just twist it and turn it and position it wherever you want, and then as you draw a pen with your pen, it draws a straight line. And it sounds really simple, but it's actually really useful.
Yeah, I think I saw, was it Lance Euroff, I think?
Yeah.
He'd got a kind of a tweet with a GIF in it that showed, or a video that showed it going to, it definitely looks really neat the way they've implemented that.
Yeah. So that's quite good. Screen Sketch is quite good if you want to annotate a document, or it kind of takes an image of it, and then you can mark up parts of it and share that quite easily. So I think that was quite good. I'm not sure how much I'll use it, but I can see that being quite interesting. What I found didn't seem to work, which is what they showed off at the build, was where it was integrated in maps, so that you could say, I'm going from this point to this point, and draw the sort of the route with the pen, and it would understand that. At the moment, the pen just seems to work as a pointer control in maps. Now, maybe I'm missing something, or they just haven't integrated that. I suspect it's not been integrated yet. But it works very well on the the Surface Pro 3, so I'm sure it works just as well on the Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book. So interesting features. Something else though that I found in the settings side for the pen is they've enhanced the settings around the pen buttons. So when you go into settings, there's a pen section, and you can choose what the pen button does, which I think was there before, but I think there's a couple of other extra options. So you've got a click once option, so you can make it go to the Windows ink workspace, or you can make it load a OneNote or a universal app or a desktop app. You can do anything really with that, and you can even make it go to a certain sketch section. So just by tapping with the pen, you can make it open the ink workspace and create a new sticky note, or go to the sticky notes section, which is quite good. So it's quite good with the pen, convenient just to get it to jump to a certain thing. I've just got it to open the home page, but I think I'll probably put it back to being OneNote because that's the most useful, but it is good. And then there's a double click option as well. So what I've done, double click, is I've set it to send screenshot to OneNote. So to take screenshots is really easy now. Just double click the pen. And if you use press and hold, it loads Cortana, although that doesn't work for me. The setting's there, but it doesn't seem to do anything. But
yeah, I did try that actually, and I couldn't get it to work either. I think because these are settings that used to be in the Surface app, weren't they?
Yeah. So they've moved those back into the.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense really. But if you think it was fine, I think while there was really just a Surface that really had pen as a full feature, whereas now there are lots of OEM tablets with these digital pens. So I think it makes sense to have that as a central setting.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that the pen features are quite useful, and I think these quick sort of tools make it where it's more handy, and then you'll probably use them more. So I think that was quite a nice little tool, and it puts a little pen icon in the taskbar as well for launching these tools, which you can enable even if you haven't got a pen, and you can just show that as a taskbar item. So I was quite impressed with those. A nice set of the features. I think it just needs a bit more integration with the rest of the OS.
Yeah.
But I like that.
So I just got one of your videos from your site suddenly start playing, and now I can't stop it.
No, it's killer browser.
Gone.
Yeah. So that was the new pen features, and that was primary reason why I wanted to put it on my Surface is to try it, because you don't get those pen features in on a tablet or whatever without a pen. So the other big change is what we were talking about before, is the new start experience, which I do. Like you said, I do like that. I think when you're in non-tablet mode, so you've got the start menu, just having, it's really easy to get to the all apps list and the settings and whatever. It feels like there's one click less for things.
Yes.
I think that's what now I know you've still got the hamburger menu there, but actually that only really just adds labels to it, doesn't it? Rather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, I've got mine full screen, but so if I click the actual hamburger menu, all it does is add, as you say, add the text labels to what's already there. But I think, to be honest, the icons are actually pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. And you can customize that list of icons as well.
Yes, just as you could before. Yeah. But yeah, I just think it looks so much. I mean, like I say, in full screen, it looks really nice.
Yeah,
it's much what I prefer. And while you could do that in the original Windows 10 build, it just didn't quite look as clean as it did.
Yeah, I think so. And I like the all apps list. I think in there, I think it looks quite good. In tablet mode, I think I quite like the toggle now. It's like a toggle, as you say, you've got the 3 rows if you're in the all apps list, but it makes a little bit more sense now. So you've got the 3 icons at the top. I think, again, they could probably reduce the size of the hamburger menu because reduce it in prominence. But it's like a tab now, isn't it, between the start menu and the all apps list, and it actually sort of highlights which mode you're in.
Yes, I think, Windows 8.1 days, as I say, it was either swipe up or you had that little arrow that kind of popped down. So I think, and if you think, I know, I'm interested to listen to what Josh Pollard's got to say about this, because I think that's those 2 toggle menus or toggle buttons are kind of where your hands would pretty much rest if you were holding the tablet with your thumbs. I think I think they're pretty much in the right
Yeah.
place. But I mean, like I say, I very rarely go into all apps anyway. So for me, I think it works really well.
Yeah. So I like that. I think it's given that extra space now and to the start menu. Just it feels a bit more roomy now.
Yes. Yeah. No, I
That's
think
probably
it's
what it is.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what the feedback is, because I think, there's been lots of these features where they've called out the fact that this is a direct result of insider feedback. Well, I think Josh Pollard can take credit for this one, because I know he's been very very verbal about it, and I totally agree with him. It wasn't as clean. It was fine for me in terms of primarily using my Surface Pro 3 as a laptop really, but I still now, even in, like I say, in laptop mode, it's full screen all the way.
Yeah, I definitely like that. So I think that was better. It works really well on the small tablet. It works well on the Surface, and I think it worked well on larger devices as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, something else that's there in tablet mode, which maybe Windows 8.1 tablet fans will like, is auto taskbar hide.
Yes, yeah, which again just adds a little bit more, and it's easy to swipe up to get it back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think and I think the other major thing was Cortana, which is now on the lock screen, which is quite nice.
Yeah, that works quite well. So you got Cortana on there, and my favorite feature is media controls on the lock screen.
Yes, actually, I forgot to go. Now I've got my music working. I forgot to go back and look at that.
Yeah. Now I know it sounds a small thing, but it just makes it so much easier. It was one button less to press, isn't it, to bring up the controls if you're playing media. So I think that works really well, and it works on the small tablets quite well as well. And in fact, it's one thing that I miss. We'll talk phone later, but it's one of the things I miss when I'm back on the release preview ring is that the lock screen media controls. But yes, that and Cortana make the lock screen a little bit more useful now.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've always had I think they call it. I'm trying to remember what they call it now. So I had I'm just trying to go looking at my lock screen. The Windows Spotlight. I've always had that switched on, so it brings some really nice images. But yeah, it's now you kind of got Cortana flashing away, and if you've voice trained it, you can then just literally just say, "Hey Cortana," and listen to all your devices light up.
Yeah, and you can, and it works. So you say, "Play me some music," and it just starts shuffling your music.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the massive big feature is the taskbar clock now on all monitors.
Yes, I know a lot of people wanted that.
I remember the Windows 7 days, people begging for that.
Yeah. In fact, talking of taskbar as well, they've moved the Action Center notification over to the right as well with a counter.
Yes, which there's also a counter on the app icons on the on the taskbar as well. So yeah, I really, again, that was one of the things that tempted me, was the updated Action Center. It seems to present a lot more information. It now, while I don't think it's quite as finished, I don't think it's quite finished yet. It also gives you app updates. Although when you click on it, it takes you to an empty download list. So like I said, I don't think that's quite polished yet, but yes.
Yeah.
And that's certainly there. And I think notice when I clicked on the calendar now, you get events from your actual calendar show up as well.
Which makes so much more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, although I know what I've got on today, and I've got some very odd times. I've got apparently I was supposed to be at my son's school at 10:10 tonight. So I don't know what time zone it's using, but yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, I quite like that, and I think the notifications all grouped together like they were on the phone build previously. So I think that works better as well. So you get the mail app, then you get the Twitter app or Tweetium or whatever. And I think that's good. And I've also noticed on this build as well that Tweetium gets sort of a bigger class of or a larger amount of space for each notification as well.
Yes, yeah, each of the apps do, because they can include photos and all sorts now, can't they?
And an expansion icon as well. If the text doesn't fit in the two lines, you can expand that out as well. So I quite like that. So I like the Action Center definitely looks better, and you get images in there as well. Because one of the new things was Cortana, wasn't it, that appears in Action Center with images?
Yes, yeah.
Now, this didn't work at all for me in the previous build. It now works, but so this you can share. You can go into a photo, you can hit the share icon, and instead of sharing it to Twitter or Facebook, you can share it to Cortana, and it creates a notification or a reminder, and then that image pops up as well, which I thought was quite good.
Yes, yeah.
and store updates, as you mentioned before as well. I think I like that as well.
Yes, yeah, and also I think the Windows Insider has now got its own settings as the taskbar settings have now moved as well. So although I think that might have been one for the more recent build, wasn't it? I think.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah. So what else was in there?
One of the big features for me, which has helped me today, is the new app reset, which hopefully might help you in your situation previously as well.
Yeah, that's right. Something we talked about for quite a while on apps. I think I had it initially with the Outlook or the Mail app anyway, where it just was corrupt basically, and I couldn't get it to do anything. And I fixed it in the end. No, it was OneNote, wasn't it? I remember fixing it in the end by using PowerShell, and I kept that PowerShell command, which so you uninstalls, deletes the cache, you restart, you come back in, and then you can pull it down again. But now you can go into the app settings, and you can do a reinstall of the app, which is really good actually. Which I'm really pleased with that, and it works as well. We'll talk about the newer builds and the bugs later, but there's an issue in Netflix, and that fixed it for me.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, that's a nice little feature. All these little things do make it a lot better, a lot more polished, and I think, like you said, it's the polish that really makes you want to sort of jump onto this. Now, something else that you mentioned, I did get into this, that was the Wi-Fi quick action takes you to the view available network.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was a mobile feature.
Yeah, because on mine it just turns it on and off.
Yeah, because I know, for example, on Windows 10 Mobile, if you hold down the Wi-Fi, it takes you to the Wi-Fi settings. But I think most people kind of expect it to not be a toggle. I think it's difficult because some people expect. I've got used to it being a toggle. I use it all the time for Bluetooth, but I think probably is more logical that people tap it and expect it to go to find Wi-Fi networks. I think, if you're in the middle of a shop or a coffee shop and you tap the Wi-Fi icon, you don't really want Wi-Fi to turn off. You're probably trying to find a Wi-Fi network to connect to. So I think that's going to be interesting to see if that actually ends up being a feature that you can set or choose between.
Yeah, whether they default it.
Yeah, I think the other big change is, although I think that again it got more cemented in the more
Gary's in the chat room.
Yes, I think that got more cemented in the more recent build, was the changes to messaging. Because I haven't got Windows 10 Mobile Redstone builds on my mobile, but have you got the cross messaging everywhere to work?
Yes, actually, I was messaging Gary last week with this. So because I'm not running the Redstone build on my 950, I was in my spare phone, which has a SIM card in it, but it's not a sort of known number. So I was sending a text to Gary, and I think he's wondering who they were coming from. And I think I put something like testing from Windows 10, and Gary, is that Ian? So yeah, he guessed it was me. So yeah, I was testing it, and it seemed to work. You can send it from the PC, and it routes via your phone, and then coming back in, it just seems to sync the messages. So I didn't get a notification on the reply, but then it was there in the messaging app, and I think it may have been because I read the message on the phone first. But yeah, that definitely worked. So that was quite good. The sort of messaging. I still didn't get, and I've not tested it on this new build, some of the phone notifications pushing back, like low battery and things like that.
Right, yeah.
I've not tested it on this build, so I will test it at some point tomorrow. I also, did you see as well, there's something that's quite useful for anybody messing with audio in Windows 10 is you can have multiple playback devices in Windows 10 now for audio.
Yes, yeah.
And so you can sort of see them in one go, which is always good. So I think theoretically with that, it opens up quite a few possibilities. But I know the basic way is you can have one app going through headphones and another app going through the speakers. I think that should work. But I think that was quite good as well. A lot of the settings have had a bit of an overhaul. They've got new icons on there.
Yes, yeah, and again, that kind of goes to what I was saying about it. Just looks a bit more polished. Having the little icons, it's almost like you start to recognise the options by the icon rather than having to read the actual text. So, very pleased with that.
And what else was we? So yeah, we've got the app reset. You mentioned the Insider program page as well. That's quite good to see.
Yeah.
You can switch desktops now with the touchpad, can't you?
Yeah, although I find that less sorry, I can't speak. Less useful because I use the three-finger gesture for switching between apps.
Right.
And so you have to choose between having it as the app switcher or the desktop switcher, which for me just makes it a bit less useful. I think probably maybe if you only had one or two apps per desktop, I could see that. But yeah, for me, that's not something that really kind of met with my normal kind of workflow, because I had been practicing or trying to get into the habit after saying I didn't use the virtual desktops of having Tweetium on its own desktop with like my mentions in one window and kind of timeline in another. And so I was switching between desktops. So I did think that would be quite useful for me, but as I say, because it took away being able to use three fingers to switch between apps on a desktop, I found it less useful.
Yeah, I agree. I think I prefer the using it as the app switcher.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether or not they could do it so that you could, because what I wanted to do was kind of drag down to the desktops, but it doesn't let you do that, I don't think.
Yeah. There's some other things like the UAC dialogue has been changed. It's had a bit of a refresh. I think the last time they touched that was in the Vista days, so I think that's good to see.
Yeah. It certainly looks. I mean, I keep repeating myself, but this is what I meant about in terms of just it looks more polished and a more cohesive experience as opposed to
Yeah.
It's like having played around with this latest build. It's almost like for me when Windows 10 and I thought about going back to Windows 8, and you try it and then you realise that you just can't use it anymore.
Oh yeah, and of course, most importantly, is the File Explorer is now got a white body instead of a yellow body.
Yes, yeah, and I think the dark theme as well. Did that come in this build or was that a later one?
That was in this one, I think.
That was in the
or
dark
previous one. Yeah, I've been using the dark mode. In fact, it's been on previously because I've had it on the tablet for a while.
Got you. Yeah. But yeah, the new so the new icon for File Explorer. Now the fact that it's not pinned by default, which
I don't really like that.
No, I don't. Particularly because it takes it away if you've already got it. But I do wonder if people that are using Windows 10 as a more tablet experience. Probably we keep saying how complex Windows is as an overall operating system, and maybe it's better that people don't start digging down to it, that they just use the start and the settings and app stores and things.
Maybe, I mean, I can see that they're probably doing that as a test, aren't they, to see reaction, because I guess these builds also, as well as going to insiders, they probably do focus groups and things with these builds as well, won't they?
I think that was the first thing I did after logging back in was repin that one.
Yeah. So there were quite a few issues with this build, and one of them, I think the worst one, was the blue screen.
Yeah, that was the one that kind of worried me, although I know you said that you hadn't come across it, and also there was a link to a solution. So that's why I'd planned to kind of take that one on the chin, so to speak, if it had come across it. But unfortunately I didn't even have to get that far.
Well, typical, as I said, I hadn't had it. It then happened all the time after that, and it only happened once or twice on the Surface, but on the small tablets it was doing it every time I switched them on. But I hadn't sort of got round to running the fix, and then, like you said, that's a fix on the next build. I think there's some other issues as well, and like the Project Centennial apps don't work, which is the tool for converting desktop apps to UWP apps. There was
some odd Groove Music ones about waiting 2 minutes after logging in.
Yeah. So there was quite a few issues with it, but we'll come back to issues because I think they're either carried over or fixed. So we'll come back to when we talk about the next build. So that was a very impressive build, and on the PC side, at the same time as well, they also released that build for phones as well, which was a day after the previous phone build, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had a phone build on the Wednesday, and then I can't remember which way around it was. Yeah, it was a phone on the Wednesday. This was on the Thursday, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, I think because they had a bit of a flip-flop, didn't they? I think it was the Windows 10 desktop build where they had to hold the mobile build at the last moment, and then there was a mobile build where they'd had to hold the desktop build at the last moment. So, I think 14328 was a slight increment to the mobile build, and then obviously a big jump for the desktop one, and then a few days later we obviously got the next one.
Yeah, so the next one, which is the one then where you jumped on, wasn't it? That's 14332, which again was for the phone and the PC, and that's good to see in itself, isn't it? That these builds are in sync now.
Yeah, I think that also is kind of an indication that we're getting to the end of the road. I know it's still 2 months out, maybe, but I think things are kind of moving along, and these things, it really does show these things are being developed in lockstep, whereas that probably wasn't quite so true with the threshold releases.
Yeah. So I think with this build that was released, was it Tuesday evening? They're really trying to get some of the bugs out of the system on this one, and they're doing what they call a bug bash. So I think with the Windows feedback tool, you can go do little tasks and sort of feedback on what issues you've had with that. So I think they are trying to use this time now to sort of nail that down and get that stability there, because the polish is there now. It's just the stability to those features.
Yeah, I think the bug bash thing is a really interesting thing that they're doing with insiders. It's literally loads and loads of quests. Try doing this. Try and some to how do you find the experience? And I like the fact that a lot of the quests, they're not telling you how to do something, they're telling you what to do, so that they're picking up on whether or not people, whether or not it's discoverable, whether or not it's natural, and also obviously so feeding back on how useful and easy to discover features are, but also hopefully finding and fixing the issues.
Yeah. So you can have a look at the blog post, because they've got the sort of the details on that. I really just use the Windows feedback tool, and you can find all the tasks in there. So 14332 again for phone and PC. For the phone, there weren't any changes that I could see, any visual changes. Again, I think it's stability, and the only real issue that I saw was the Tweetium app that doesn't work. They fixed most of the issues I had that why I was rolling back from the previous, why I didn't keep that Redstone on the 950. Although I still think there's a problem with Twitter and images as well. So I think I'll stay clear of that for now. And there's a DRM issue. So the DRM issue is actually on phone and PC. So we'll talk about that now, but we'll talk about what's new in a minute. But let's just talk about that, because this is probably the biggest issue. So what's the DRM problem?
So the DRM problem was around errors with a playing back of DRM content. So, and it only seemed to impact people if you've previously played DRM content. So, if you were installing this build and maybe using Groove Music for the first time, or you hadn't purchased movies before, then you were fine. They actually updated the post. As I say, after I started to install it, I realized that they'd updated it. Originally, they thought it was just like one of the standard error codes, kind of 0x8, etc. But then I noticed they updated it with an actual kind of DRM invalid secure store and DRM domain store get data. Which is kind of quite a big one. I think there's also an issue which still stands that, again, if you log in within 2 minutes, you might get an error, which is a bit odd that it's 2 minutes, but I guess that's probably a service starting up somewhere.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But yeah, this one was quite a biggie for me, because I used my Groove Music Pass to listen to quite a bit of music, and so I discovered that for me, that I've got the Now TV app that works. My purchase content from what was Blinkbox, now TalkTalk TV store, that worked, and my Netflix worked, but my Groove Music and films and TV, I could play back my own MP3 stored in OneDrive. I could play them stored on the local drive, but if I tried to download stuff or play stuff that was just from Music Pass or from films that I'd purchased, I got that error. But it was something that I could have lived with. I could just listen to my own music for a while, and I don't watch that many films. They're mostly purchased for watching on the Xbox. But then thankfully today, I got pulled into a Twitter conversation between he's at Viana Flavius on Twitter, and he suggested doing the app reset, which again is a new feature, isn't it, in these builds, as we've talked about. I know within the Groove Music there is a reset, and reset my Groove Music Pass collection, but this is different. This is actually resetting the app, which it warns you it's going to delete all your local app data, and it doesn't actually wipe out any downloaded music or downloaded films. It literally just resets the app and kind of where the database is stored. So I tried that, and lo and behold, everything just started working. And I noticed that Brandon LeBlanc and Ellen Kilbourne have now retweeted those. So I think they're quite happy that that's a workaround that seems to work. But
it certainly fixed Netflix. And Netflix on a Surface wasn't working, and I ran that reset, and it started working again.
Yeah, because I did ask Ellen Kilbourne whether or not this is something that could be fixed with an app update, and she was thinking, understandably so, with limited information, that it would require a new build. And my plan was because it kind of gone to the slow ring, which meant I might have had a bit of a wait. But yeah, this app reset obviously wipes out the DRM flags or your licenses to allow them to reset.
Yeah, it seemed to do the trick for me anyway. Which I was quite pleased with that. So I'm quite a handy time of that feature. So it'll be interesting to see whether they, because the actual post says we're working to have this fixed in the near future. So that doesn't really say whether it's a hot fix or a new build. So I suspect, like you, it's probably a new build.
Yes, yeah. Although, I mean, it does show actually how thorough this app reset is. It should, in theory, fix any issues. So I think that's we've talked previously about how frustrating it is and how sometimes how technical you have to get it working again, which isn't good for normal users, particularly people presenting the weather when they got offered Windows 10 updates.
Yeah, so that was quite funny.
Yeah, it did make me laugh.
Have they not heard of domain policies and?
Yes, that's what I wanted. Yeah, I was a bit shocked at Leo Laporte suggesting that the lady should install unauthorized software onto a corporate machine. I think she'd probably end up in more trouble doing that. But yes, it's quite funny. Maybe it'll make Microsoft realise that actually. But yeah, so app reset absolutely works. Brilliant. Yeah. Although the odd thing is, which the groupers were discussing on Twitter, that feature isn't in Windows 10 Mobile for the same build.
It really needs it.
Yeah, and having me just said, these things have obviously been developed in lockstep. It seems odd that the exact same build number hasn't got it. So, which is a shame.
I think you need it more on mobile, because at least on PC you could do it through PowerShell. You can't on the phone.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like you said, and also probably your phone's the place where you're more likely to listen to content. Whether or not uninstalling the app and reinstalling it might also be a solution. But I don't know how much data that actually clears out when you do that.
No.
But I mean, hopefully that feature will come to the phone, because I've had apps on my phone that have got into poor states when my solution in the past has been to remove them and reinstall them. But it would be nice to have a full app reset feature. But I imagine it will come.
Yeah. Now the other changes in this build, 1452 on the PC, were improved Bash internet access effectively. So apt-get that was failing, which apt-get is a command to download packages, and that was failing to get to the servers and download apps. So I think that there was a fix for that by editing a config file, which that now has been fixed in this build. And they also said on the command prompt that they've made several improvements, including the window scaling on PCs with high DPI displays, better font selection, and rendering of international characters. Now, I think actually I did see the results of this, because I noticed I went on my Surface Pro the other day and uploaded the command prompt, and it was drawing the text very slowly, almost like a film would draw text, character by character. Almost like that. And then since this build's applied, that's no longer the case. So I think maybe that was a bug somewhere, and then this build has fixed it. The other thing that's now in this build is Cortana can search through Office 365 files, so and contacts and things.
I'm not entirely sure how that works, because I've got, when I check my connected accounts, I've got Office 365 linked and Xbox Live. I'm not, and I am seeing search results, but then I don't know if that's just because I've got stuff synced to my PC. I can't seem to get.
Well, I tried this with connected and not connected, and when I had it not connected, I typed the search term into Cortana, clicked on the mail icon, and it took me to the "you need to connect an account" dialog.
Right.
So I did that, and now I do a search term, and it's finding mail in my normal account. so I've just done a search. I've just typed test in and clicked on the email icon, and it's doing a search of emails :test, and it's showing me all emails that are from my non-365 account with the word test in there. But before linking, it wouldn't show me anything. So it seems to have added some extra functionality in there. So I'm not quite sure how that's worked, but essentially what it just seems to be doing is linking the Cortana to your mailbox, which I thought was there already. But then when I go on this non-Redstone machine and do a search for test, there's no email icon. So it must be, it is a new feature.
Yeah, I think actually now playing around with it, yes, I can see that it is actually searching my Office 365 emails. So yes, actually, I think it is working now. I think maybe it just took a bit of time for it to populate.
Actually, yes. So I've just clicked on one of those emails. It's tried to open Outlook, proper Outlook, big Outlook.
Yeah.
Which I don't really want. Thank you very much. I haven't got that configured on this machine. So yeah, there is definitely some linking in there. And it just wants me to open. So that's where the linking is going in. The other thing that's changed on this as well, and this is probably the reason why the previous builds are crashing when going into connected standby, is they've improved the battery life. So they've changed some of the algorithms around the connected standby to improve battery life. And I guess that's what was going wrong in the previous release, and that's now working. So I haven't really been able to see anything. I did notice a decrease in the connected standby battery life when I switched to the fast ring, and I've got a feeling that's back to how it was before now. But Microsoft say it should be improved overall.
Yeah, I like the way that they've tied it into kind of, it uses the same settings as battery saver. So it's as if battery saver's kicked in. Although I can see that's going to take quite a bit of tweaking in terms of, maybe you want to set the mail app to still work, and what you have to do is go into the app settings and change the app so that it doesn't obey the battery saver. I'm trying to think, because I actually couldn't find it in settings when I tried to look, because I assumed it would be in the apps in the battery saver.
I thought, yeah, they've kind of done it. The way that it seems to be worded is that, oh yeah, connected standby always allowed is in your battery settings.
Is it? Okay. So I've got battery, I've got usage by app.
Yeah, so it's got system battery and enable the app that you want to run during. Oh, I see. So you've got two options. So you can have the old behavior, or you can enable it app by app as well.
I'm with you, yeah. So if I click on Mail and Calendar, it's got in use.
Oh, that's really sorry to interrupt there. But I was just saying about doing it app by app is if you're experiencing problems.
Yes, yeah, because there may be apps that, for example, you might find in connected standby now that the Mail app doesn't collect mail like it used to. So what you need to do is configure the Mail app to not obey kind of battery saver. But I can't find. The only thing I can find is if I tap on Mail and Calendar, I get 3 radio buttons, always allowed in background, managed by Windows, never allowed in background. So I guess if you set it to, yeah, always allowed in background, then I would have thought it would be slightly more obvious in terms of battery saver. But
yeah, that's it, because that was introduced in the last build, is what the notes say here.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that is a good idea. I think it's a difficult one because that's going to take, I think, a lot more micromanagement in terms of knowing which apps you want to be connected. Although again, it might be that Windows is a bit more logical in terms of if the battery's quite full, then maybe it would allow it through. But it's certainly a change where you would maybe need to reconfigure things. But I think yeah, overall, it's good connected standby. It can be quite a drain if you've got lots of apps still connecting in. Whereas you might want your mail collected, but you probably don't want necessarily tweets and things coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a big list of fixes. What we mentioned before, the blue screen issue has been fixed, and that seems to be the case because I haven't had that since then. The other one that I found was annoying on large downloads, where things would stick at 99% and you had to rename the file to get that to work. That's been fixed, and they've fixed issues with favorites bar. There's quite a lot of fixes in there actually, so I'll include a link, the release notes in the podcast notes, so that you can have a look at those. On mobile, they fixed the UI for Cortana reminders, which I couldn't get it to work at all and now it does. So that's a good UI improvement. They've also fixed where the camera app wouldn't work on some of the lower end devices like the 435. So that's been fixed as well. And there's a number of sort of UI changes. The known issues we talked about. I think some of the language settings are still an issue, aren't they, when downloading these languages? And Project Centennial apps are still an issue with running those as well. I found on the previous build to the previous build that sometimes the start menu was unresponsive on my Surface Pro 3. So you would press the start menu and nothing would happen. And you maybe need to do a couple of goes to do it, but that's gone away as well now. So overall, I found these last two builds, and particularly this current build that we're on now, to be working quite well on my Surface Pro 3. Yes, I've had to reboot it a couple of times with issues on my Core 8. I've had to reboot it a few times because the start menu wouldn't work properly at all. But less issues, certainly less issues than previous builds. And I think apart from Tweetium and the Twitter image issues, I think the phone build seems more stable. I won't be putting on my 950 just yet, though.
No, you're not tempted.
No, I'm not tempted with that. But certainly there's been plenty for insiders to get to have a play with.
Yeah, I think we certainly can't complain at the lack of builds this year.
Yeah, that's right. I just Gary says, "I'm sorry, I listened to Steve Wozniak rather than you both." Oh, thanks, Gary. I'll send him a message. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, you're right. We can't complain about the number of builds and a massive thunderstorm. I don't think that whether they might pick that up, but a massive ball of thunder outside. That's give me heart failure then.
Yeah, we had snow yesterday.
Yes, I nearly got stuck. I not literally nearly got stuck in the snow yesterday, but I was doing 10 mile an hour on the A1 up a hill, and if I thought if this lorry slows down anymore, I'll have to stop, and then that's me gone. I was all over the road. Anyway, so we can complain about the weather, but we can't complain about new builds and features in the new builds as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, well, with that impending thunderstorm that's coming, it will probably knock off my internet. I shall let you go.
Well, one thing I have got to say is, since last Friday, I've had a Lumia 950 on loan.
Oh yes.
I got an email out of the blue from Lumia Voices, which given that they're closing down, I wasn't expecting to hear from them again. But I got an email out of the blue asking if I wanted to try out a Lumia 950. Obviously, having had the 950 XL, so jumped at the chance. I've had that for a week. I got that for another week, and absolutely love it. All my complaints about the 950 XL was really around the size, but I know that the 950 has got slightly less processor in, so I was a little apprehensive, but no, I mean, it's been performing brilliantly. It's a perfect size. It's definitely the phone that I would upgrade to for my 930. The screen looks amazing, and it's working really, really well.
Oh,
so,
excellent.
Yeah, really pleased with that. Yes.
So we'll probe you more on that next week's show then.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately enough, next Friday will be the day it goes back. So I shall be. Yeah. The 950 XL. I was disappointed to send it back, but I knew I wasn't going to miss it. But this, I think it's. I think I'm going to miss this when it goes back.
Yeah. I know what you mean. So, we'll have a good bank holiday weekend.
Yes, and you?
Yeah, so we should be back next week. I don't think Gary's back next week, is he? I think he said he'd be away for a few weeks.
Yeah, still jet setting.
Gosh, that is absolutely throwing it down now outside. It sounds like I'm glad.
I think he's promoting his new album, Lemonade.
Yeah, we'll leave him on tour. So thanks to everybody in the chat room. Thanks to you, Jason, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, cheers. See you.